You know how sometimes, even when everything looks perfect on the surface, there's this little voice, a tiny whisper of unease, that tells you something is just off. That's exactly how I felt stepping onto the pristine white sands of the Coral Coast Resort. It was supposed to be a dream vacation, a lavish family getaway to celebrate my parents' anniversary. But for me, Alex, it felt more like stepping into a perfectly designed trap. The air was thick with the scent of salt and exotic flowers, the kind of oppressive sweetness that makes you feel both pampered and slightly suffocated. My older brother, Marcus, was already lounging by the infinity pool, a designer cocktail in hand, his perfect smile reflecting the blinding sunlight. My sister, Chloe, was snapping selfies on the beach, her expensive swimsuit barely covering anything, meticulously curating her perfect online life. And my parents, eternally poised, were already chatting with the resort manager, discussing the finer points of their private villa. I, on the other hand, felt a familiar tightness in my chest. This kind of opulence, this effortless luxury, was their domain, not mine. Not the failed Alex, the one who constantly reminded them of past mistakes and financial missteps. "Oh, Alex, you made it," my mother cooed. Her voice a little too bright, a little too saccharine. She gave me a perfunctory hug, barely touching me. "We were just admiring the suite. It's simply divine. Such a shame you won't be able to enjoy these kinds of luxuries on your own, isn't it?" She punctuated the last sentence with a pointed glance at my simple, well-worn travel bag, a stark contrast to their matching Louis Vuitton luggage. My father, ever the pragmatist, chimed in. "Well, it's good you're here, son. At least you get to experience how the other half lives, even if it's only for a few days, on our dime." He patted my shoulder, a gesture that felt less like affection and more like ownership. If you've ever felt like your own family has invited you to a feast, only to remind you that you're dining on their scraps, then you know this feeling. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about the constant, subtle reassertion of their perceived superiority, their endless need to remind me of my place. "Let's see how failure finds them." My father had chuckled into his phone during a family call about the trip. Unaware I could hear him, he thought he'd hung up. That phrase, chilling in its casual cruelty, had echoed in my mind ever since. It was a joke. To them, a very public, very pointed joke at my expense. My family had a long history of this. I was the black sheep, the one who tried to carve my own path and stumbled spectacularly. While Marcus excelled in corporate law and Chloe became a successful social media influencer, I, Alex, had a different story. I had pursued my passion for ethical tech and sustainable innovation, but my early ventures, ambitious and ahead of their time, had failed. They weren't just setbacks. They were public, financially devastating failures that left me with substantial debt and a bruised ego. My parents, pillars of their community and masters of maintaining appearances, had rescued me. They'd paid off some of my creditors, lent me money with excruciatingly detailed repayment plans and frequent reminders about my obligations, and generally micromanaged every aspect of my life under the guise of helping their struggling child. "We just want what's best for you, Alex," my mother would sigh, handing me another bill from one of my defunct ventures. "Why can't you just get a stable job like your brother, something respectable?" My father, a self-made man who prided himself on his business acumen, would shake his head in exasperation. "You have good ideas, Alex, but no follow-through, no business sense. You're too idealistic. You need to learn to be practical." Practical, in his lexicon, meant doing exactly what he told me to do. Their help came with a constant barrage of subtle digs and not-so-subtle criticisms. Every family gathering became an opportunity for them to highlight my perceived failures. "Remember when Alex tried to launch that eco-friendly gadget?" Marcus would smirk, recounting my disastrous crowdfunding campaign. "He lost his shirt on that one," Chloe would add. "Yeah, poor Alex. Always aiming too high. Huh." The emotional manipulation was far more damaging than the financial control. They gaslit me constantly. If I ever voiced my frustration, if I tried to explain my vision or the lessons I'd learned from my failures, it was dismissed. "You're overreacting, Alex. We're only trying to help." You're too emotional. You always twist our words. I started questioning my own sanity, wondering if I truly was as incompetent and ungrateful as they made me out to be. The self-doubt became a constant, nagging companion. I had spent years trying to earn back their respect. Trying to prove myself worthy of their love, I took on odd jobs, saved every penny, and slowly, painstakingly, chipped away at my debts. I still lived modestly, eschewing the flashy cars and designer clothes that were commonplace in my family's circle. To them, this was further proof of my struggle. What they didn't know, couldn't possibly imagine, was that while I was publicly battling the ghosts of my past failures, I was also quietly building something new, something truly groundbreaking. After my last tech startup imploded, I didn't give up on my passion for sustainable innovation. Instead, I pivoted. I dove deep into renewable energy solutions, particularly focusing on decentralized smart grids and community-level energy independence. It was a highly specialized, cutting-edge field, far removed from their world of corporate law and social media. I started small, consulting for nonprofits, then moved into grant-funded research. My work was often discreet, involving proprietary technology and intellectual property. I found a mentor, Dr. Anya Sharma, a brilliant and fiercely independent energy scientist, who saw my raw talent and resilience. She didn't dismiss my past failures. She saw them as learning experiences. "Alex," she once told me, "your family sees a past failure. I see someone who tried, stumbled, learned, and kept going. That's true success." Her words were a balm to my soul, slowly healing the deep wounds of familial scorn. Under Dr. Sharma's guidance, I immersed myself in complex research, developing patented technologies for microgrid integration and advanced battery storage. My work began to gain quiet traction within the scientific and engineering communities, though it was still largely unknown to the wider public, and certainly to my family. They wouldn't have understood it anyway. It wasn't a real business in their terms. I was now the lead engineer on a pilot project, backed by a major environmental foundation and a forward-thinking utility company, to implement a fully sustainable energy grid for an entire remote island community. It was a massive undertaking, requiring innovative solutions and meticulous planning. The financial compensation for this project, and the patents I held, was now substantial, far exceeding anything my family had ever loaned me. But I kept it hidden. Why invite their interference? Why give them more ammunition to dissect and dismiss? So when the invitation to this lavish family vacation came, I was instantly suspicious. My family didn't do just for fun trips. There was always an agenda. They booked the most expensive suite for me, insisted I join them, and paid for everything up front. It felt like a trap, but a part of me, the old, hopeful part, still craved their acceptance. Maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Maybe they were finally softening. But the subtle digs started immediately. Marcus accidentally spilled champagne on my simple shirt, then offered me one of his expensive, perfectly tailored ones. "Since you don't have anything suitable for a resort like this, do you?" Little brother Chloe innocently asked if I was still living in that tiny apartment, implying I hadn't progressed since my financial woes. My parents constantly brought up my past troubles in front of resort staff, with a performative sigh, as if to say, "Look at our poor, struggling son." The last night of the trip, they insisted we have a grand farewell dinner at the resort's most exclusive restaurant. They'd reserved a private dining room overlooking the ocean. "It's our treat, Alex," my father announced with a flourish. "Consider it our gift for you taking time out of your busy schedule." The sarcasm was barely concealed. During dinner, the conversation revolved, as always, around their accomplishments. Marcus's latest corporate merger, Chloe's exploding social media following, my father's new real estate development. When the conversation turned to me, it was always with a condescending tone. "Alex is still finding his feet," my mother said to a new acquaintance they'd invited, a wealthy developer from another state. "He's very creative, but perhaps a little too impractical for the real world." "Yes," my father added, shaking his head with mock sympathy. "We've tried to help him, of course, but some people just have to learn the hard way, don't they?" He's got such a good heart, though just not a head for business. Marcus leaned in, a conspiratorial whisper that was loud enough for everyone to hear. We're thinking of getting him an entry-level position at one of Dad's less demanding properties. Just something to keep him occupied. Chloe snickered into her champagne flute. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a family vacation. This was an intervention. A public shaming disguised as generosity. They had lured me here, to their opulent playground, to once again showcase my perceived failures and assert their dominance. The whisper from my father's phone echoed in my head. Let's see how failure finds them. This entire trip was the joke. I felt a surge of nausea, then a slow, burning rage. But it wasn't the kind of rage that would make me shout or lash out. It was a cold, calculated fury. They thought they had me. They thought they were in control. But what they didn't know was the depth of my resilience, the true extent of my quiet success. I excused myself from the table, feigning a headache, and went back to my suite. I lay on the plush bed, staring at the ceiling, the sound of the waves crashing outside a mocking reminder of the luxurious trap I was in. I felt utterly violated, used, and betrayed. This wasn't just about financial humiliation, it was about the crushing weight of their emotional cruelty. But in that moment of profound hurt, a new kind of resolve solidified within me. The old Alex, the one who craved their approval, was gone. The new Alex, forged in the fires of their constant judgment and this ultimate betrayal, was emerging. They wanted to see how failure finds them. Fine, I would show them. But it wouldn't be my failure they saw. My phone, always a link to my professional life, felt heavy in my hand. I had connections, resources, and skills they knew nothing about. My network in the renewable energy sector stretched across the globe. My patented technologies were quietly generating substantial royalties. And I had a pilot project on a remote island that was on the cusp of a major global announcement. They thought they had left me stranded, exposed. They thought they had dealt me the ultimate blow. But they had simply provided the stage for my greatest comeback. The joke, I realized with a chilling calm, was about to be on them, lying there in that opulent resort suite. The words, "Let's see how failure finds them," echoed in my mind. No longer a faint, unsettling whisper, but a loud, mocking declaration. The initial wave of nausea and betrayal slowly receded, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. This wasn't just a vacation, nor a subtle jab. This was a deliberate, premeditated act of humiliation. They had lured me here, into their gilded cage, only to abandon me, expecting me to flounder. If you've ever been at rock bottom, truly staring into the abyss, you know that's where you often find the truest version of yourself. It's where resilience is forged. My family's narrative of my failure wasn't just a recent invention. It was a carefully cultivated story spanning decades. It was the backdrop against which my entire life had been painted. While Marcus, my older brother, was groomed for corporate success, law school, prestigious internships, a fast track to partnership, and Chloe, my sister, effortlessly charmed her way into a lucrative career as a social media influencer. I, Alex, was always the anomaly. My passion wasn't for boardrooms or flashing cameras. It was for systems, for the intricate logic that governed how things worked, for the hidden potential in sustainable technology. I devoured books on physics, engineering, and environmental science. I tinkered with electronics, built rudimentary circuits in my bedroom, and dreamed of solutions that could change the world to my parents. These were not academic pursuits. They were eccentric hobbies, a distraction from real life. Why can't you be more like Marcus? Alex, my father would sigh, watching me disassemble an old solar panel. He understands business. He knows how to make money. This is just playing around. My mother, equally dismissive, would add, "You need to think about your future, dear. A nice, stable job, a good wife. What kind of woman wants a man who spends all his time in a garage?" Their words chipped away at my confidence. Day by day, year by year, I started believing their narrative. Perhaps I was impractical, perhaps I was naive, but I couldn't abandon my passion after college. Instead of pursuing a conventional corporate path, I launched my first tech startup, focused on smart home energy management. It was ambitious, perhaps too much so for an inexperienced 20-something. I poured every penny, every ounce of my energy into it. It failed, spectacularly. The technology was ahead of its time, the market wasn't ready, and my business acumen, as my father so gleefully pointed out, was sorely lacking. I accrued a significant amount of debt, losing not just my own savings, but also some early investor money. The shame was immense. It was the perfect ammunition for my family. See, my father had boomed, waving my bankruptcy papers in front of me. "We told you so, you don't have what it takes. Alex, you're a dreamer, not a doer," my mother, with feigned sympathy, would say. "It breaks our hearts to see you struggle, dear. But we did warn you. Now, let us help you. We can pull some strings, get you a sensible job." Their help was suffocating. They paid off some of my creditors, but only after making me sign repayment agreements that felt more like indentured servitude. Every loan came with an endless stream of advice, criticism, and passive-aggressive reminders of my dependence. "Remember that money we lent you, Alex. For your little project, it's time to be sensible now." They constantly pushed me towards soul-crushing administrative roles within their network, jobs designed to keep me small and dependent, far from any risk or real innovation. Marcus and Chloe, meanwhile, thrived on my failures. Marcus would subtly bring up my past debts at family dinners, always with a sympathetic headshake. Poor Alex, always learning the hard way. Chloe would post glossy pictures of her latest designer purchases, tagged with captions like, "Hard work pays off," a thinly veiled dig at my struggles. The gaslighting was a constant, insidious undercurrent. If I ever tried to explain my vision, the lessons learned from my mistakes, or the valuable intellectual property I still held despite the financial losses, they would dismiss it. "You're living in a fantasy, Alex. You're too sensitive. We're only trying to help you. Why do you always fight us?" I often left conversations with them feeling confused, questioning my own judgment, my own sanity. If you've ever had your reality twisted, your feelings dismissed, until you start doubting yourself, you know the insidious power of gaslighting. It's a silent, psychological torment. But amidst the wreckage of my public failures, a new seed had begun to sprout. My passion for renewable energy and sustainable grids never died. Instead, it became a quiet, solitary pursuit. I spent my days working odd jobs to pay off debts, and my nights immersed in advanced research papers, online courses, and open-source projects related to decentralized energy systems. I was learning, evolving, building a new expertise that was invisible to my family. It was during this period that I found Dr. Anya Sharma. She wasn't just a brilliant energy scientist. She was a beacon of intellectual rigor and fierce independence. She had built a global reputation for her groundbreaking work on microgrids and sustainable power solutions for remote communities. I reached out to her, initially just seeking advice on a complex algorithm. She saw something in me, not a failure, but a resilient mind with raw talent. "Alex," she told me during our first video call, her eyes sharp and intelligent, "your past ventures may have failed, but your ambition didn't. That's what truly matters. True innovation often comes from multiple attempts and lessons learned." Her words were like cool water on a parched soul, validating parts of me my family had actively suppressed. Under her mentorship, I flourished. I joined her research lab, initially as a junior engineer, then quickly rose through the ranks. My analytical mind, my systems thinking, and my ability to solve complex, real-world energy challenges became invaluable. We developed patented technologies for advanced battery storage and AI-driven grid optimization for remote, off-grid communities. Our work was discreet, often involving sensitive environmental data and strategic national energy interests, but its impact was global. I became the lead architect on a pilot project to design and implement a fully self-sufficient, renewable energy grid for a remote island community in the Pacific. It was a massive, multi-year undertaking, involving intricate engineering, complex logistics, and collaboration with international environmental organizations. The financial compensation was substantial, including a significant share in the intellectual property and future royalties. But I kept it entirely secret from my family. Why give them ammunition to dismiss, to control, to claim a piece of my hard-won success? My modest apartment, the one Chloe still scoffed at, was my sanctuary. It was where I worked late into the night, collaborating with teams across time zones, solving problems that would genuinely change lives. My life was no longer defined by debt or their condescension. It was defined by purpose, innovation, and impact. So, when the invitation to the Coral Coast Resort came, I was instantly wary. My family's generosity always came with strings. They insisted on paying for everything, choosing the most expensive suite, acting as if they were doing me a great favor. They were oblivious to my true financial standing, which far exceeded theirs thanks to my burgeoning royalties and major project contracts. This obliviousness, their continued belief in my failure, was my greatest shield. It allowed me to work in peace, unnoticed and unmolested by their need for control. Throughout the resort stay, their veiled insults and condescending remarks were a constant undertone. Marcus offered to spot me for a round of drinks. Winking at my father, Chloe innocently suggested I ask my parents for a small loan to buy a new wardrobe suitable for such a resort. My mother sighed dramatically about my simple tastes, as if my preference for comfort over flashy labels was a character flaw. I played along, feigning a polite awkwardness, giving them exactly what they expected the struggling Alex who was grateful for their opulent handout. It was an exhausting performance, but it kept them off my scent. I didn't want them to know about the multi-million-dollar contracts, the patented technologies, or the prestigious international awards my team was quietly receiving. Not yet. The timing had to be perfect. The farewell dinner on the last night was the culmination of their cruel charade. The private dining room, the expensive champagne, the casual dismissal of my entire professional existence. He's got such a good heart, though just not a head for business. The words echoed in my ears, cutting deeper than any blade. They weren't just saying it to me, they were saying it to a wealthy new acquaintance, solidifying their narrative of my incompetence. When I excused myself and returned to my suite, the rage was cold, precise. They thought they had left me with a metaphorical bill of my own failures. They thought they had won, but they had profoundly underestimated me. They had no idea the true cost of their joke. I walked over to the desk in my suite. A small, elegant piece of furniture. On it sat my discreet, military-grade encrypted satellite phone, a crucial tool for communicating with my team in remote locations. It was a piece of equipment they would never recognize, let alone understand. Next to it was my equally secure, custom-built laptop, containing access to my various financial accounts and the details of my ongoing projects. I sat down, my fingers already flying across the keyboard, a surge of adrenaline sharpening my focus. They wanted to see how failure finds them. Fine, I would show them, but it wouldn't be my failure. I had access to resources, to a network, to an intellect they had consistently denied and belittled. I had been planning a major move in my career, a public announcement about the success of our island energy grid project. But this cruel joke had just provided the perfect, unbidden stage for a far more personal, far more impactful revelation. I opened my secure banking application, noting the various accounts, the healthy balances, the investment portfolios. Then I accessed the details of my main project, the fully self-sufficient smart grid for the remote island. The pilot program was nearing its completion, proving its immense success. The final report, detailing its efficiency, scalability, and the hundreds of millions of dollars in potential future contracts, was already drafted. This was the real money I was making, not their paltry loans. A mischievous, yet steely glint entered my eyes. They wanted to saddle me with a bill fine. I would not only pay it, but I would turn their joke into the greatest testament to my undeniable, self-made success. The game, I realized, was about to change, and for once, I was holding all the winning cards. The next morning, I woke up with a quiet resolve that felt alien yet empowering. The luxurious suite, with its panoramic ocean view, no longer felt like a gilded cage. It was simply a stage. I dressed in simple, comfortable clothes, the kind my family often sniffed at, but which allowed me to move freely. I left the suite, intending to grab a quick breakfast before figuring out my next move. As I approached the resort's elegant breakfast buffet, a uniformed staff member, a young man with a polite but firm demeanor, intercepted me. "Mr. Hayes, a moment of your time, please?" My heart gave a small lurch. This was it. The other shoe was about to drop. He led me to a discreet corner of the bustling lobby, where the resort manager, a stern-looking woman with impeccably coiffed hair, stood waiting. Her expression was grave. "Mr. Hayes," she began, her voice formal and chillingly precise, "we regret to inform you that your family checked out this morning, very early, without you." A cold knot formed in my stomach. So, it wasn't just a threat, it was real. They had actually done it. "And," she continued, her gaze unwavering, "there appears to be an outstanding balance on your family's master account. They indicated that you would be settling it. The total amount is $15,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $15,000. For a few days' stay, my mind reeled. It was an astronomical sum, even for this level of luxury, and it was all on my shoulders. If you've ever felt the bottom drop out of your world, that sickening lurch when you realize you've been utterly, completely betrayed, you know this feeling. My head swam. I could almost hear their triumphant laughter echoing across the ocean. Let's see how failure finds them. This was their joke, their final, cruel punchline. They truly believed I was incapable, dependent, that this debt would crush me. They wanted to watch me squirm, to beg, to admit defeat. I felt a surge of raw, primal anger, quickly followed by a wave of profound shame, the kind that makes you want to curl into a ball and disappear. All those years of trying to prove myself, all the quiet sacrifices, all the hard-won independence, had it all been for nothing? Were they right? Was I, Alex, truly a failure? "Mr. Hayes," the manager prompted, her eyebrow raised slightly, her patience clearly wearing thin. "How would you like to proceed with the payment? We accept major credit cards, or a wire transfer." I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. My mind raced, trying to recall my wallet, my cards. And then it hit me, my main credit cards, the ones connected to my personal accounts for everyday spending, were deliberately modest. I hadn't wanted to flash wealth, or give my family any reason to question my struggle. And the high-limit corporate cards, the ones linked to my substantial project budgets and personal wealth, were locked away in my secure travel pouch, which, in my haste to enjoy what I thought was a genuine family moment, I had left in the suite. I need to get my wallet," I stammered, feeling the heat rush to my face. "It's in my room." "Certainly," she said, though her tone was skeptical. "We'll send a bellboy with you. We'll be waiting for your prompt return." The implication was clear: don't try to run. As I walked back to the suite, accompanied by the silent, watchful bellboy, my mind was a whirlwind, the sheer malice of it. They hadn't just left me, they had deliberately left me with a debt they knew I couldn't immediately cover with my visible resources. It was a perfectly orchestrated trap, designed to expose my perceived financial inadequacy and force me into a position of desperate dependence. Once inside the suite, I located my secure travel pouch. My hands trembled as I fumbled with the clasp. Inside, nestled amongst my passport and other travel documents, were my corporate credit cards, the ones with virtually limitless spending power, tied to the substantial funds from my ongoing projects and royalty payments, and my discreet, encrypted satellite phone, my direct link to Dr. Sharma and my global network. I stared at the cards, a wave of both relief and bitter irony washing over me. They thought I had nothing. They thought I was broke. They had no idea the true extent of my wealth, hidden in plain sight, protected by their own blind condescension. And then, I found the note, tucked under my pillow, clearly placed there after I'd gone to bed last night. It was from Emily, her elegant, looping handwriting mocking me from the page. "Dearest Alex," it began, dripping with false sweetness. "So sorry we had to leave without you. An urgent business matter came up, the kind you wouldn't understand. Darling, we thought it would be a fun little joke to see how you manage on your own. After all, You're always so independent. Aren't you? Let's see how you handle a real challenge. Don't worry. Mama and Papa are so proud of Marcus and Chloe. As for you, well, let's just see how failure finds you." The last words were underlined, scrawled larger, bolder, vibrating with their shared contempt. It wasn't just Emily's cruelty. It was the collective voice of my entire family, confirming their malicious intent. The joke wasn't just about the money. It was about breaking me, about forcing me to crawl back to them. Admitting their narrative of my incompetence was true. If you've ever received that kind of devastating, cruel message, designed to crush your spirit, you know how it feels to have your entire world shake. But sometimes, that shakeup is exactly what you need. My vision swam, not from tears, but from the white-hot surge of pure, unadulterated fury. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect. This was about years of emotional abuse, of being belittled, gaslit, and used. This wasn't just a bill. It was a declaration of war. I took a deep, shuddering breath, forcing myself to calm down. Panic wouldn't help. Despair wouldn't help. What I needed now was clarity. What I needed was a plan. I walked back to the lobby, the note crumpled in my hand, the corporate credit card now firmly in my wallet. The manager looked at me expectantly, her skepticism still evident. "Here," I said, my voice steady, my gaze direct. I handed her the corporate card. It was a premium black card, subtly branded with the logo of my current major project's funding foundation. Her eyes widened imperceptibly as she took it. She processed the payment, the machine hummed, the transaction went through. A receipt printed, the amount $15,000, paid in full. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes," she said, her tone considerably warmer. A hint of surprise in her voice as she handed back the card and the receipt. She had clearly expected a struggle, an explanation, a moment of weakness. She got none. I looked down at the receipt. Paid. The immediate crisis was averted, but the deeper wound, the profound betrayal, still festered. I couldn't let this stand. They thought this was a joke. I would show them what a real joke looked like. I walked back to my suite, not with despair, but with a fierce, cold determination. The sun was rising higher, casting golden light across the ocean. My remote island project. It was the key. My focus sharpened. My mind, which had been reeling from the shock, now began to connect the dots, to see the bigger picture. I had spent years quietly building my expertise, cultivating my network, developing revolutionary technology in renewable energy. My pilot project on the remote island was nearing its public launch, a global announcement that would showcase a fully sustainable, self-sufficient energy grid, a technological marvel that would redefine energy independence. The financial implications were astronomical, not just for me personally, but for the entire sector. They thought I was a failure because I didn't fit into their narrow definition of success: corporate law, social media glamour, traditional real estate. They couldn't comprehend the value of what I did because it was abstract, complex, and lacked the immediate, visible flash they craved. Their joke was born of their own ignorance and their deep-seated need to control me. I picked up my secure satellite phone, a sleek, unassuming device my family would never recognize. I dialed Dr. Sharma's direct line. She answered almost immediately, her voice calm and authoritative. "Alex, everything all right? You sound determined." "Dr. Sharma," I began, my voice low but firm. "My family just pulled their ultimate stunt. They left me at the Coral Coast Resort with a $15,000 bill, as a joke, to see how failure finds me." There was a pause on the other end. Then, a low chuckle, not of amusement, but of grim understanding. "I see. And you paid it, I presume?" "Yes," I said, "with the project's corporate card, but this changes things. I'm done hiding. I'm done minimizing. That island project, it's ready for its global announcement. Isn't it the one we were planning for next month?" "It is," she confirmed, a note of curiosity in her voice. "Good," I said, a dangerous calm in my voice. "I want to accelerate the timeline. I want the announcement, the press conference, the full reveal of what we've accomplished, to happen here at the Coral Coast Resort as soon as possible. And I want my family to be here, not as guests, but as witnesses." There was another pause. Then, Dr. Sharma's voice, sharper now, recognizing the shift in my tone. "You're serious, Alex. This isn't just about the project anymore, is it?" "No," I replied, staring out at the sparkling ocean, a vast expanse of opportunity. "This is about showing them the true face of failure, and it won't be mine." The irony was delicious. They had chosen this luxury resort as the stage for my humiliation. I would turn it into the stage for my undeniable triumph. The $15,000 bill wasn't a burden, it was an investment in my own liberation, and in the most powerful public declaration of independence imaginable. The wheels were already in motion. The joke was about to boomerang. The phone call with Dr. Sharma had been the turning point. From that moment, the resort, which had been a symbol of my family's malicious joke, transformed into my strategic command center. My despair was replaced by a laser-like focus, a cold, calculated determination to not only escape their trap but to dismantle their entire narrative of my supposed failure. You ever feel that surge of energy, that hyper-focus? When you know everything is on the line, that's exactly where I was. Every thought, every action was geared towards one goal. My first priority was immediate logistics. The resort manager, after processing my $15,000 payment, had seemed almost apologetic, her demeanor shifting from wary skepticism to polite deference. I used this change to my advantage. I politely but firmly informed her that due to unexpected business developments, I would need to extend my stay indefinitely. I specifically requested the largest, most private conference room available, emphasizing the need for high-speed, secure internet access and state-of-the-art presentation equipment. Her swift, efficient compliance was a stark contrast to the dismissive attitudes I usually encountered. Once the conference room was secured, my satellite phone became my lifeline. I called Dr. Sharma again, laying out my accelerated plan. "I want the global announcement for the island project, the full press conference, to happen here, at the Coral Coast Resort. We need to move the timeline up to next week." Dr. Sharma, always the pragmatist, was immediately on board. "Ambitious, Alex, but feasible. The final report is ready. The data is irrefutable, and the initial results from the island are groundbreaking. We have all the major players eager to go public." Over the next few days, the luxurious resort, with its swaying palm trees and sparkling ocean, became a hive of intense, covert activity. While my family believed I was stranded and struggling, I was orchestrating a global media event. My days were a blur of secure video conferences, encrypted data transfers, and rapid-fire strategy sessions with Dr. Sharma and my core team from the Island Project. We were finalizing the details of the Sustainable Energy Independence Project SEIP for the remote Pacific Island. This wasn't just a small-scale pilot, it was a full-scale, fully operational microgrid powered entirely by advanced solar, tidal, and wind energy, integrated with cutting-edge battery storage and AI-driven distribution. It had transformed the island community, providing reliable, clean energy, reducing energy costs by 90%, and creating new local jobs. It was a blueprint for global energy sustainability, attracting the attention of environmental foundations, major utility companies, and even national governments. My role as the lead engineer and chief architect of SEIP meant I had personally overseen every aspect, from the complex algorithmic development for energy distribution to the logistical challenges of deploying technology in a remote environment. My patented innovations in smart grid optimization were the backbone of the entire system. This wasn't computer gibberish. This was tangible, impactful, world-changing technology. You won't believe the level of detail, the sheer intellectual grind that goes into building something this groundbreaking, but every late night, every complex calculation was fueled by a quiet purpose. While my team worked tirelessly behind the scenes, the resort staff, oblivious to the high-stakes operation unfolding in their conference room, treated me with newfound deference. The resort manager personally ensured all my requests were met, often checking in with me with a respectful, "Is there anything else you need, Mr. Hayes?" The contrast to my family's condescension was stark and deeply satisfying. Meanwhile, my family's silence persisted. It was almost unnerving, No desperate calls, no frantic messages. They truly believed they had delivered the ultimate blow, that I was somewhere wallowing in despair, desperately trying to find a way to pay that bill. Their lack of contact was proof of their malicious intent, but it also gave me the perfect cover to execute my plan. They wouldn't know what hit them. The only person I confided in, beyond my professional team, was Lena. I called her, recounting the full extent of my family's joke and my plan for the counterpunch. "Alex," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of shock and admiration. "They really outdid themselves this time. But you're a freaking genius. This is the ultimate mic drop. You're not just paying the bill, you're buying the whole stage." Her unwavering belief was a constant source of strength. She understood the depth of the betrayal, and she understood the power of this kind of strategic retaliation. The preparations for the press conference were meticulous. We needed to fly in key personnel from my team, including Dr. Sharma, as well as representatives from the funding foundation and the utility company. We arranged for a secure satellite link for live broadcast, set up a sophisticated multimedia presentation, and drafted compelling press releases. I personally oversaw the narrative, ensuring the focus was on the project's transformative impact, the innovative technology, and the global implications for sustainable energy. I knew that the broader public, and by extension my family's social circle, would see the sheer scale and prestige of what I had accomplished, even if they didn't grasp the technical details. There was a moment of doubt, a fleeting whisper of the old Alex. What if this backfired? What if they still found a way to diminish it, to twist it? But then I remembered Emily's cruel joke, the $15,000 bill, and my father's sneering, "Let's see how failure finds them." That memory fueled my resolve. This wasn't about seeking their approval, it was about reclaiming my narrative, permanently. One afternoon, during a brief break from setting up the conference room, I saw my mother's name flash on my phone. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text popped up. "Alex, your father and I are worried. We haven't heard from you. Are you managing? Let us know if you need anything." The passive-aggressive concern, the thinly veiled question about my financial state, was almost comical. I simply deleted it. Their worry was a tactic, not genuine care. I used the resort's high-end concierge service to anonymously send invitations to select individuals, not just media, but also key figures from my family's social and business circles, the mayor's chief of staff, who, through Maria, I knew was already coming, influential business leaders who knew my father, and prominent philanthropists known to my mother, and, of course, a discreet, anonymous invitation to my parents, Marcus and Chloe, hinting at a major announcement regarding a new, groundbreaking sustainable energy initiative impacting the region. I knew their curiosity, and their innate need to be seen at important events, would ensure their attendance. They would come, expecting to network, oblivious to the true reason. Drop your thoughts in the comments below if you've ever had a secret triumph brewing, waiting for the perfect moment to be revealed. The day of the press conference dawned bright and clear, the kind of perfect beach day that usually signified relaxation, not a career-defining showdown. The resort staff had transformed the conference room into a sleek, professional media center. Cameras were set up, microphones tested, and the aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. Dr. Sharma arrived early, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "This is going to be big, Alex," she said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Not just for the project, but for you. You deserve this." My heart pounded, a mix of nerves and exhilaration. I saw the first waves of attendees arrive: local media, tech journalists, environmental advocates, and a few familiar faces from the city council. Then, the grand doors opened again, and in walked my family. My mother, elegant in a floral dress, scanned the room with an air of mild confusion, probably wondering why this energy initiative was being held at a luxury resort. My father, in a tailored suit, looked around, clearly assessing the level of influence present. Marcus, ever the opportunist, immediately began networking, handing out business cards. Chloe, phone in hand, was already taking selfies, likely for her social media feed. oblivious to the deeper significance of the event. They didn't see me at first. I was standing near the podium, behind the main stage setup, reviewing my notes. They walked right past me, their eyes sweeping the room for important people, not recognizing the man they had dismissed as a failure. It was the perfect prelude. The conference began. The resort manager introduced Mayor Monroe, who then delivered a powerful opening address about the city's commitment to sustainability. Then she paused, a dramatic shift in her tone. "And now," she announced, her voice ringing through the room, "it is my distinct honor to introduce the visionary mind, the lead engineer and chief architect behind this groundbreaking project. The man whose patented innovations are making sustainable energy independence a global reality. Please welcome Mr. Alex Hayes." My name, spoken with such reverence, resonated through the room. A spotlight hit the podium. I walked forward, not with a swagger, but with a quiet, undeniable presence. My eyes swept the crowd, and then they landed on my family. My mother's eyes widened, her smile freezing on her face. My father's jaw dropped. His networking attempts halted mid-sentence. Marcus's cocktail glass almost slipped from his hand. Chloe, mid-selfie, slowly lowered her phone, her eyes wide with shock. They looked like they had seen a ghost, not just a ghost, but a ghost they had repeatedly declared to be dead. The silence that followed the mayor's introduction was thick, pregnant with their dawning realization: the failed Alex, the one they had abandoned with a $15,000 bill, was standing on a stage, introduced by the mayor, as the mastermind behind a globally significant project. The look on their faces was priceless. It was a cocktail of shock, confusion, disbelief, and a dawning, terrible understanding. This was the moment, this was the masterstroke, and it was only just beginning. The silence in the grand resort ballroom was deafening, a stark contrast to the usual hum of polite chatter. Every eye was on me as I stepped forward, bathed in the sudden glare of the spotlight. My name, spoken with such reverence by Mayor Evelyn Monroe, echoed in the stunned air, a profound declaration that cut through decades of their dismissals. And then I saw them, my family, frozen. My mother's face was a mask of utter bewilderment, her eyes wide with disbelief, her perfectly coiffed hair suddenly seeming less pristine under the harsh reality of the moment. My father, the self-proclaimed titan of business, stood rigid, his jaw slack, his face pale. His usual confident smirk had vanished, replaced by a dawning, terrible comprehension. Marcus, my older brother, had dropped his cocktail glass. It lay shattered on the marble floor, a glittering metaphor for their crumbling narrative. He was staring at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and, I dare say, a flicker of professional envy. Chloe, my sister, who lived for public validation, had lowered her phone, her carefully constructed social media facade cracking under the unexpected spotlight. Her eyes were fixed on me, filled with a raw, unmasked confusion. They looked like ghosts, not just ghosts, but ghosts of a past they had meticulously, maliciously tried to bury. The failed Alex, the one they had left with a $15,000 bill as a cruel joke, was now standing on a stage, introduced by the mayor. As a visionary, the irony was so potent, it was almost physically palpable. You ever feel that moment when the universe, or perhaps just your own strategic planning, delivers the most satisfying, undeniable, "I told you so," without you having to utter a single word? It's pure, unadulterated triumph. I approached the podium, my steps deliberate, my posture straight. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with a fierce, exhilarating sense of vindication. I glanced at Dr. Sharma in the front row, who offered a subtle, encouraging nod, her eyes sparkling with pride. Maria Rodriguez, the mayor's chief of staff, gave me a knowing, supportive smile. These were the people who had seen my true worth, who had recognized my dedication and intellect. I took a deep breath, scanning the faces in the audience, the eager media, the curious business leaders, the confused socialites, and my utterly stunned family. I began to speak, my voice calm and clear, filled with the authority of expertise and the power of truth. "Good morning, everyone," I started, the microphone carrying my voice across the ballroom. My name is Alex Hayes, and it is my immense privilege to share with you today the culmination of years of dedicated research, innovative engineering, and profound collaboration, the Sustainable Energy Independence Project, or SEIP for short, as I spoke. The massive screen behind me lit up, displaying stunning visuals of the remote Pacific island. Aerial shots showcased the newly installed solar farms, the elegant wind turbines dotting the coastline, and the shimmering tidal energy converters in the ocean. The narrative I presented was concise, powerful, and irrefutable. SEP is more than just a project. It's a blueprint for the future of decentralized, renewable energy. We have successfully implemented a fully self-sufficient smart grid that has transformed this island community from energy dependence to complete independence, reducing their energy costs by over 90% and providing clean, reliable power for every home and business. I spoke about the patented AI algorithms that dynamically optimized energy distribution, the advanced battery storage solutions that ensured continuous power, and the innovative tidal energy converters that harness the ocean's raw power. I delved into the measurable impact: improved air quality, economic growth through new local jobs in renewable energy maintenance, and enhanced quality of life for the island's residents. As I presented the technical data, the financial projections for scalability, and the global implications for similar remote or disaster-prone communities, I could feel the atmosphere in the room shift. The initial curiosity among the broader audience turned into rapt attention. Journalists scribbled furiously. Business leaders leaned forward, their expressions of polite interest transforming into shrewd calculations. I kept my gaze sweeping across the room, ensuring I made eye contact with everyone. And yes, my eyes kept returning to my family. They were still frozen, their expressions moving from shock to a dawning, almost painful realization. My father, who had once dismissed my work as computer gibberish and believed only in tangible assets like real estate, was now looking at complex schematics of energy flow and financial models predicting hundreds of millions in future savings and revenue. His eyes, usually so sharp, were wide, trying to comprehend the scale of the gibberish I had created. My mother, who had fretted about my unstable career and my lack of a sensible job, was seeing me present a multi-million-dollar, globally impactful project, not as an employee, but as its chief architect and innovator. Marcus, the corporate lawyer, was surely processing the intellectual property, the patents, the international contracts I casually referenced. The sheer scale of the legal and financial structures I had built around SEIP would be impossible for him to dismiss as a mere hobby. The envy I saw on his face was undeniable, and Chloe, my sister, who thrived on external validation and superficial appearances, was seeing her struggling brother being lauded as a visionary by a sitting mayor, while she remained just another face in the crowd. Her phone, which she usually clung to, was forgotten in her hand. If you've ever meticulously crafted a reveal, knowing every single detail will land precisely where it needs to, you know the exquisite tension of that moment. After I finished the technical presentation, a Q&A session began. Journalists fired questions about scalability, environmental impact, and future funding. I answered each one with precision and confidence, demonstrating a mastery of my field that left no room for doubt. Then, a journalist, clearly intrigued by the personal story behind the project, asked, "Mr. Hayes, given the groundbreaking nature of SEIP, how did you manage to keep such a significant undertaking under wraps for so long? There's been very little public information until now." This was it. The moment I had subtly orchestrated, I paused. Allowing the question to hang in the air, I looked directly at my family, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. "That's an excellent question," I began, my voice steady, but with a subtle undertone that only my family would truly understand. For many years, I've chosen to work quietly, often in the background, focusing on the innovation itself rather than seeking public recognition. My previous ventures, as some of you may know, faced significant challenges, and throughout that period, there was a prevailing narrative, even within my own circle, that I was perhaps not cut out for the business world, that my ideas were too impractical, my approach too idealistic. I paused, letting the words sink in. My parents shifted uncomfortably. Emily's face was now a mask of pure dread. However, I continued, my voice gaining strength. True innovation often thrives away from the glare of immediate judgment. It requires perseverance, resilience, and a deep, unwavering belief in one's vision. Even when others don't quite see it, I met my father's gaze, holding it. Sometimes, it takes a journey into what others might perceive as failure to truly understand what success means on your own terms. I then looked at Emily, and sometimes, I added, my voice dropping slightly, it takes a certain kind of joke to push you to fully embrace your truth. The subtle jab landed. Emily flinched. Visibly, she knew exactly what joke I was referring to. The entire ballroom, however, remained largely oblivious, simply taking it as a philosophical statement about resilience. But my family knew. They knew. As the Q&A wrapped up, Mayor Monroe returned to the podium. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, for that truly inspiring presentation. This project is a testament to what focused innovation and unwavering dedication can achieve. She paused, then turned to the audience. And on behalf of the city, and indeed, on behalf of sustainable energy advocates worldwide, I'd like to announce that the Coral Coast Resort, where we are gathered today, will be the site of SEIP's next major pilot expansion. Mr. Hayes and his team will be overseeing the integration of our sustainable energy solutions right here, ensuring this beautiful resort sets a new standard for environmental responsibility. The announcement sent a fresh wave of murmurs through the room. My family, already reeling, looked utterly shell-shocked. The very resort where they had abandoned me, the stage for their cruel joke, was now my next project site. I wasn't just paying their bill, I was taking over the venue. The irony was poetic. The mayor then turned directly to me, a warm smile on her face. Mr. Hayes, your vision for urban sustainability aligns perfectly with our city's goals. We are honored to have your expertise guiding this crucial next step. She extended her hand, and I shook it firmly. The flash of cameras was blinding. This wasn't just a professional endorsement, it was a profound personal vindication. I was not a failure. I was not dependent. I was not their joke. I was a leader, an innovator, and a man who had built his own empire, far beyond their narrow, conventional understanding of success. As the press conference concluded, people swarmed the podium. Eager to speak with me, journalists clamored for interviews. Business leaders extended their cards, proposing collaborations. I was in my element, discussing complex solutions, forging new partnerships. I glanced over at my family one last time. They were still standing there, a small, isolated cluster amidst the swirling crowd. Their faces were etched with a mixture of disbelief, embarrassment, and a dawning, bitter jealousy. They hadn't come to congratulate me. They hadn't come to apologize. They had come to watch their joke unfold, and it had, just not in the way they expected. I didn't approach them. I didn't need to. My presence, my undeniable success, and the public affirmation of my worth were more than enough. The ultimate confrontation wasn't about shouting or accusing. It was about simply being seen for who I truly was. In the very place they had tried to break me. The $15,000 bill wasn't a debt. It was the entry fee to my own freedom. The press conference ended in a whirlwind of flashing cameras and congratulatory handshakes. I moved through the crowd, fielding questions from journalists, exchanging business cards with interested investors, and accepting the sincere praise of city officials. My family, though still present, felt miles away, their stunned silence a palpable presence in the background. I didn't approach them, nor did they approach me. The chasm between us had never been wider or more clearly defined. You know when you finally break free from something that's been holding you captive for years? It's not just relief. It's a pure, exhilarating sense of sovereignty. As the event wound down, Mayor Monroe pulled me aside. "Alex," she said, her eyes warm with genuine respect. "That was truly exceptional. The impact of your work here at Coral Coast and the SEIP project overall is undeniable. I have no doubt you're going to reshape the energy landscape." Her words were the ultimate validation, erasing decades of my family's dismissals. Later that evening, after the last journalist had packed up and the conference room was being reset, I finally retreated to my suite. The ocean breeze wafted through the open balcony doors, carrying with it the scent of salt and liberation. I sat down, phone in hand, and allowed myself a moment to process the day. The $15,000 bill, once a symbol of their cruel joke, now felt like a paltry investment for the profound clarity and empowerment it had bought me. My phone buzzed. It was Lena. "Oh my God, Alex, I just saw the news. You were incredible, the mayor, the resort, you totally own them. How do you feel?" "Exhausted," I admitted, a genuine smile spreading across my face. "But mostly free, really, truly free." Lena laughed. "You deserve it, every single bit of it. You worked your butt off, quietly building something extraordinary, while they were busy trying to tear you down." Her voice was filled with a fierce pride that felt more like true family than anything I'd ever received from my own blood. The days that followed the press conference were a fascinating study in familial dynamics. The direct, contemptuous communication from my parents, Marcus, and Chloe ceased entirely. There were no more passive-aggressive texts, no more thinly veiled insults. It was replaced by a strained, almost fearful silence. They simply didn't know how to engage with this new, powerful version of me. Their usual tactics, gaslighting, financial manipulation, public shaming, had been rendered utterly ineffective. The foundation of their control, built on my perceived weakness, had crumbled. Then came the hesitant, almost desperate attempts to reconnect, cloaked in awkward compliments. My mother sent a text, "Alex, your father and I were so impressed by your presentation. We always knew you had it in you. We'd love to have dinner next week, just family, to celebrate your success." No mention of the bill, no apology for their joke, just a transparent attempt to re-establish a connection. To somehow claim a piece of the glory, I replied politely, "Thank you, Mom, I appreciate that. But my schedule is extremely demanding with the Coral Coast project. I'll let you know if I have any free time in the coming months." It was a firm, yet polite boundary. I wasn't going to reward their past behavior by immediately capitulating to their newfound interest. My time, my energy, my peace were no longer negotiable. My father tried a different approach. He sent an email, unusually formal for him, "Alex, I've been reviewing the public data on the SEIP project. Remarkable, truly remarkable. I had no idea the scope. Perhaps we could discuss potential investment opportunities. My firm has considerable experience in large-scale infrastructure projects." He was trying to leverage my success, to draw me into his world on his terms. I responded equally formally, "Thank you for your interest, Dad. My projects are currently fully funded and structured. All investment inquiries are handled by my corporate development team. I'll pass your contact information along." I detached myself from the transaction, outsourcing the interaction to a professional boundary. He would have to go through the proper channels, like any other interested party, and I knew that would frustrate him to no end. His control through money was gone. Marcus, surprisingly, was the one who seemed to genuinely want to reconcile, albeit hesitantly. He sent me a longer text message, not quite an apology, but an acknowledgement. "Look, Alex, about everything. I guess I didn't really get what you were doing. We all underestimated you. Seriously, what you built is incredible. No joke. If you ever need legal advice on the IP, or anything, I'm here." His offer felt almost sincere. It was a step, however small, towards a respectful sibling relationship, I replied, acknowledging his message, and left the door slightly ajar for future, healthier interaction, but on my terms. Chloe, true to form, never directly acknowledged the situation. Instead, her social media posts subtly shifted. Instead of showcasing her own luxuries, she started posting inspirational quotes about overcoming adversity and quiet success, clearly trying to align herself with the narrative of my triumph. Without ever mentioning me by name, it was pathetic, but also harmless. I simply unfollowed her. Her performance no longer held any power over me. If you've ever found yourself redefining what family truly means, knowing that sometimes it's not about blood, but about respect, support, and genuine connection. then you're on the path to liberation. My life transformed profoundly. The Coral Coast Resort project was a massive success, attracting international media attention and solidifying my reputation as a leader in sustainable urban development. My team expanded, taking on more ambitious projects globally. My patented technologies became industry standards, generating substantial royalties that ensured my financial independence was not just secure, but virtually limitless. I bought a home, not a flashy mansion to impress, but a beautiful, minimalist house nestled in a quiet, green neighborhood. It was a sanctuary, a place where I could work, create, and find peace, free from the constant judgment and demands of my past. I surrounded myself with a chosen family, Lena, who remained my fiercest advocate and closest confidant, Dr. Sharma, my brilliant mentor and now a cherished friend, and my incredible team, who celebrated my leadership and shared my vision. I learned the true meaning of boundaries. They weren't walls to keep people out entirely, but fences to protect my peace. They allowed me to interact with my biological family on my terms, without sacrificing my emotional well-being. If a conversation turned toxic, I would calmly disengage. If a request crossed a line, I would politely decline. I no longer felt guilty for prioritizing my own well-being. The journey taught me invaluable lessons. It taught me that failure isn't the end. It's often the most powerful catalyst for growth. My early business failures, though humiliating at the time, had forced me to learn, to pivot, to build a different kind of expertise. They had hardened my resolve and sharpened my vision. It taught me that true success isn't defined by external validation, especially not from those who are invested in your failure. It's an internal knowing, a deep satisfaction that comes from living authentically, pursuing your passions, and making a meaningful impact on the world, regardless of who sees it or applauds it. Most importantly, it taught me the power of self-worth. For so long, I had allowed my family to dictate my value, to label me, to define my capabilities. The cruel joke at the resort, intended to break me, had instead shattered the illusion of their authority over my life. It had forced me to confront their toxicity head-on and to realize that their perception was a distorted reflection of their own limitations, not a reflection of my reality. I now live a life of purpose, independence, and profound inner peace. The ghost of the failed Alex no longer haunts me. It has been replaced by the quiet confidence of a man who faced his deepest fears, overcame betrayal, and built an extraordinary life on his own terms. My family still exists, somewhere on the periphery of my new life. They no longer hold the power they once did. The $15,000 bill, once a symbol of their malice, has become a footnote in my journey. It was the price of admission to my freedom, and frankly, it was worth every single cent. My story is a testament to resilience, to the strength found in rock bottom, and to the sweet, undeniable triumph of self-worth over external judgment. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to find your own way out of a toxic situation. And share this story with anyone who needs to hear that their true value lies within, not in the eyes of others. This isn't just my story. It's a message to anyone who's ever been told they're not enough, that they're a failure, or that their dreams are too big. You are enough. You are capable, and your success will find you, often in the most unexpected ways. Once you stop letting others define it for you.